In this Hex University lesson, we will be discussing one of the most fascinating mechanics of the Hex smart contract, the T-share rate. This lesson will aim to educate you on the science behind the T-share and to bring awareness to how staking Hex uniquely provides an ecosystem where even the smallest stakers can symbiotically coexist with whale-sized Hex investors. To learn more on the diverse Hex stakers ecosystem, please check out the community-trusted website staker.app or download the Staker app on your smart device. To understand the Hex T-share rate, we must understand the most basic elements of staking Hex and what role T-shares play. When Hex is staked, the tokens are burned temporarily from the circulating supply and replaced with T-shares. The value of T-shares determine the daily yield that is accrued by stakers. Upon claiming a matured stake, the T-shares are burned and the initial Hex investment plus yield is minted to the staker in the form of additional Hex tokens. Let's begin by discussing the life cycle of staking Hex. To earn trustless yield in the form of additional Hex tokens, a staker chooses how many tokens they wish to lock up and for how many days they wish to commit to staking. This balance of how much and how long calculates a staking bonus, with a more significant reward given to stakes of longer duration, and a smaller reward based on the volume of Hex tokens being staked. The value of these staking bonuses is then added to the initial principal allotment of Hex to determine how many T-shares the staker will receive. It is important to note here that it is possible to own a fraction of a T-share. Below are the equations and relative limits to the bonuses the smart contract calculates to determine how many Hex will be added to the initial principal. Summing together the initial principal of Hex as well as the total bonus value of Hex will determine how many T-shares a staker receives at the time their Hex is burned. The cost of a T-share is referred to as the T-share rate. It can be represented in dollar terms or fiat currency terms, but the power of the T-share rate becomes most evident when viewed through the lens of Hex terms, which we will do now. In the column highlighted to the right, we see the T-share rate of Hex. We can see that the number in this column only increases or remains the same. That is because, in Hex terms, the price of required number of Hex necessary to acquire one full T-share at the time of staking only increases over time. As the largest Hex stake in T-share terms of any single day matures and is claimed via the end stake or good accounting function, a calculation is made within the smart contract and applied to all future stakes. This ensures that consecutive, shorter stakes of the same initial principal in Hex terms cannot accrue more Hex than a single, same-sized stake which lasts the same duration of time as the aggregate of those shorter stakes. This means that no matter how much Hex was staked, upon maturity, restaking the principal and the interest of the recently completed stake would never afford more T-shares than the original stake from before. At best, the T-share rate is identical, but in almost all cases, the T-share rate is now more expensive in Hex terms. This mechanism protects even the smallest Hex stakers from needing to worry that whale-sized stakers might simply try to swallow up more T-shares by restaking matured Hex stakes and the accrued yield. Instead, the value of staking early, and more importantly, staking longer, is the behavior that is incentivized most in the Hex smart contract. So stake long and stake strong, Hexicans. Hopefully this video has provided a basic understanding of the power behind the T-share rate mechanic. For a mastery of this mechanic, a more in-depth analysis will be provided by Hex University in another video.